Good evening, everyone. It's Dr. McCoy, and it's time for our 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time gathering. We gather on Thursdays every week, and this week, as you can see, looks a little different, right? I'm sitting in the living room. You can probably hear the sound of a clock behind me. Can you hear that? You see that the atmosphere is different. So on today, I'm going to talk to us as we think about Mental Health Month. I want to talk about coping strategies for anxiety. So I wanted to be just a little different on this evening. I want us to really gather in a safe space and really focus on what anxiety can do to a person. What comes to your mind when you think about anxiety? Many people deal with anxiety. Anxiety can really impact significantly people's lives, especially if it becomes a severe chronic issue. So when you think about anxiety, when I'm talking about it on this evening, I want you to think about anxiety as really persistent worry. Anxiety is intense and excessive fear, perhaps, about everyday situations. So any person could deal with anxiety at any time. Now, I'm a Christian, I'm a believer. You may be a Christian as well. And the Bible tells us to not be anxious for anything. There is a song, a gospel song, the lyrics say, if you're going to pray, don't worry. If you're going to worry, don't pray. And we are human beings really trying hard in a challenging world to not worry. But then, like I said, we are human beings. And so sometimes I won't use the word struggle, but we have challenges. I mean, anxiety can really be a normal experience. Really, it can be normal in stressful situations such as public speaking. Anxiety can come upon us when we are going to take a test. Anxiety can come upon us, can just fall on us in a moment when we don't even expect it. So it's not something that believers just sit around and want to do. You don't want to worry. You don't want to be, a person who's thinking, oh my goodness, what am I going to do and live in fear? It's just that as a human being in this mental health month, thinking about anxiety is important because it can happen to any person at any time, regardless of faith. And sometimes it's not really connected to your faith. It's not a spiritual thing. It's something that's happening in your body. So then there are types of anxiety that people need to be aware of, all right? So that we won't just simply make it over spiritualize it to where we don't take control of what's going on in our bodies, all right? Our bodies that are made up of blood, our bodies that have veins, our bodies that have this capacity to think. What can we do to help ourselves when we deal with anxiety? First, we need to understand that there are different types of anxiety. Most people feel, as I mentioned before, occasional anxiety. It's a common part of life. So people have temporary anxiety about their work, about health. I mentioned public speaking. Sometimes they have temporary anxiety about family. Maybe someone, when I mentioned health, they're about to have a surgery. So it's not that they're just walking around constantly with anxiety, but it can be something geared towards our relationships, just a feeling towards a relationship. For example, maybe we get particularly anxious before an event, something like that. Someone is about to be married. It's a great event, but you just feel anxious, right? So when anxiety becomes overwhelming, it can be, or when it becomes chronic, it can be so overwhelming. And it can interfere with our ability to function in daily life, and it can lower our overall quality of life. That can be a result. But again, everybody does not have chronic, anxiety. Sometimes it's acute. It's one of those things that just comes upon us. But when it is chronic, it can lead to avoiding responsibilities, activities, and people. And that's when we have to think if we need to seek further help. So if it's causing tension at work or school or in your family, there are some things that you could do. Now, let me tell you what I learned. But first, I meant to talk about types of anxiety and how anxiety can really, there are different types of disorders. And so there is general anxiety disorder, GAD, and that is persistent feeling of anxiety. There's panic disorder, and that's when you have frequent and recurring panic attacks. You know, that happens to some people. Have you ever seen someone blowing in a bag, like a paper bag? Yes, that's a way that they may manage a panic type of disorder. There's social anxiety. That's when you may have a strong or persistent fear of being judged or observed by other people. See, so I'm not making this to be a talk about the spiritual side of things right now. I'm just saying sometimes we deal with this. So I want to share with you a way to manage that anxiety, but I wanted you to also know about phobias. Have you ever heard somebody mention something like claustrophobia? That's like a fear of enclosed spaces. Like the person feels like, oh, it's so small in here and I just can't deal with it. Well, that's a phobia related disorder. So that's a type of anxiety. But if you or a loved one believes that, you know, the type of anxiety that you deal with, you know, is more than some of the things that I'm going to talk about, then you're going to need to seek some help. And in this mental health awareness month, just want to encourage people, if that's what you need, hey, it's okay. All right. But let me tell you about what I read, okay? So as I'm sitting in the living room right now, I read about a type of management or something that we can do when anxiety comes upon us, because it's something that can really happen at any time, you know, during the day, right? Okay, so let's say you are, and I am too, we're about to present something before people, and we're just like, ooh, we're feeling a bit anxious. Where there's something that I read about, and maybe you already know about this, but it's called the 3-3-3 rule for anxiety. Have you ever heard of that? Yes, let me tell you. So I don't know a whole lot about it. I just have a few notes here that I want to share with you, and then I'm going to practice it so that I can see if, as I sit here, now I did say that pretend like we're about to present something to a group, but I'm going to do this right now in the living room. Okay. So I'm sitting. Okay. I'm sitting. So this is what the 3-3-3 rule for anxiety is like. So it's an easy technique to remember and use in the moment if something is triggering anxiety. Okay. So what the 3-3-3 rule involves is looking around my environment to identify 3 objects, 3 sounds, then move 3 body parts, okay? And this strategy can help me focus and really help me ground myself when anxiety overwhelms me. So here I go. Okay, here I go. The 3-3-3 rule involves looking around my current situation. Okay, so the first 3, I'm supposed to find 3 things around me that I simply see. All right, so I'm looking around. Okay, oh, you know what I see here? My blue teddy bear. Royal blue is my favorite color. So I'm going to put this bear here. Okay, so I see, that's my first thing I see is a bear. Okay, I'm looking around. Okay, I'm anxious. So, oh, I see a candle over there. Okay, that's my second thing. And then I'm looking and I see a picture frame. Okay, so that's the first 3, the first step in the 3-3-3 rule. 3 things I can see: teddy bear, picture frame, candle. Okay, next, identify 3 sounds you hear. Okay, I mentioned earlier the clock. Oh, I hear the truck that is picking up the recycle items. Okay. Oh, and I hear my fire alarm. The battery needs to be changed. Clock, truck, fire alarm. Okay, so that's the second 3. Now, moving or touching 3 things, such as your limbs or external objects. Okay, so I have to do 3 things with my body. Okay, I'm touching my elbow. It's one thing. Okay, I'm going to touch my hair. Okay, and I'm going to, okay, it says that I could move something, so I'm moving my shoulder. So elbow, touch the hair, moving my shoulder. So that's the third 3. Okay, so I read that there is no formal research into the effectiveness of the 333 rule. Many people find it to be a helpful and simple technique to handling anxiety. So it won't completely get rid of my anxiety, but it can be a useful tool to manage it in the moment. So the 333 rule is not a substitute for treatment, is what I read. And no matter how much you use it, no matter how frequently, you still want to be sure that I would need to be sure that I review other coping methods, and if I really needed other treatment, that I seek that treatment. But isn't that interesting? Wherever I am, if I'm feeling anxious, like if I'm about to present, like I mentioned to us, then I can find 3 things around me. I need to listen and hear 3 sounds and then do 3 things with my body. And that's something that I could do that maybe those around me don't suspect. So that's the 333 rule for anxiety, okay? So it can help us to cope. Now, after I've grounded myself, then I can calm down in that moment where I'm feeling particularly anxious or overwhelmed, and then I can get through perhaps what I need to get through. So I hope that's helpful for you. That was really interesting. I had never heard of that or read it before, but I also want to share with you other coping mechanisms. Okay, so general coping techniques can include the 333 rule for anxiety that I just shared. And I can do that at home. I can do that wherever I am. But then this is something else we could do. So if thinking about coping strategies for anxiety, we can take time out, remove ourselves from the situation if that's possible. Now, if I'm about to present, I can't remove myself from the situation to take time out, but I can use that 333 rule for anxiety. Another thing, minimize alcohol and caffeine intake, because they can make anxiety worse and cause mood shifts. Okay, another thing that we could do is laugh more. Humor naturally relaxes us. If you know me or seen me anywhere, you know that I like to laugh. Now, I can get extremely serious. I used to be more serious, I think, but as life continues, I just enjoy being around people who like to laugh. And even when I'm doing things like this, like whether it be teaching or, preaching or whatever it is, I often say to people that I enjoy laughing because I've had plenty of opportunities to cry. How about you? Have you had plenty of opportunities to cry? Well, if you haven't, life has a way of making you cry. Someone will die, your life situation will change, health will change, you'll just cry. So we may as well laugh. So that's another strategy for coping with anxiety, is to laugh more. Another coping technique can include taking care of your body. Make sure you get enough sleep and eat balanced meals. What have you eaten today? What did you have for breakfast? What did you have for lunch? Are you going to eat after this gathering? Okay, it's past 7:00. So watch what you eat so that you can rest well, okay? That's another way that we can cope with anxiety. Another one, try mindfulness. Mindfulness involves focusing on the present moment and feelings through you and the feelings that pass through you. That's mindfulness. In this moment, and what am I feeling right now? What are you feeling right now? You see, I changed the scenery just to help us to feel differently, to be in this moment. This is how we are now with the sounds and everything. See that? Okay. Pay attention to your breathing. Use breath work, which refers to different breathing techniques that can help reduce anxiety and stress. Have you ever just listened to yourself breathe? I still hear that truck out there, but I can also hear myself breathing. I can hear the clock. but I hear myself breathing. That's a way we can cope with this anxiety. Meditate. Practice meditation to calm and recenter our minds and our bodies, all right? Lower stress. Try stress reduction exercises like yoga or Tai Chi. I tell you, that can really help, all right? Sometimes we think about moving our bodies just for the sake of losing weight. And that's not a bad thing. It's just not the only thing, okay? So lower stress by moving your body and ease physical tension. Try a massage. When was the last time you got a massage? Have you ever had a massage, like a professional massage? You may have somebody around you who gives really good massages. When was the last time that you had that? So just know that many of these coping strategies, they can fall under lifestyle changes as well, okay? And it's really important that we modify our lifestyle when we realize that there's a lot of anxiety. Some of us have more anxiety than others. So that may mean that some of the strategies that I've shared, you need to implement them, more than some other folks. Or it may mean that some of them work for you and some of them may not. But you can look up this information during this Mental Health Awareness Month so that you can understand that mental health awareness is not just about illnesses like, that are labeled as bipolar or schizophrenia, things like that. Those are very important. And it's also important to focus on mental wellness, okay? Not having a diagnosis does not mean that your mind does not need to be cared for, okay? All right? So it's really important that we focus on treatment for anxiety and depression and all those kinds of things, and that we do our part. We do what we can. Because if you're not taking care of yourself, but you're taking care of everyone else, what's going to happen when you're no longer around? You won't be able to take care of them anyway. So you have to be able to put yourself first if you're going to be able to share in taking care of other people or just being there and enjoying them. Not necessarily taking care of them, but just being there and enjoying them. So I have a question for you as I prepare to close on today. How have you respected yourself today? Maybe you don't deal with anxiety. Great for you. But you do deal with the fact that you don't give yourself enough attention. Maybe you don't deal with anxiety, but you do deal with the fact that you don't give yourself enough space. Maybe you don't deal with anxiety, but you do deal with neglecting yourself. So, Mental Health Awareness Month is almost done, but just want you to know that it's really important that you take care of your mind all the time. So we will gather for spiritual wellness. We will also gather for emotional wellness, for mental wellness, and for physical wellness. So I'll talk about all those things as well because, as you know, and if you don't, maybe you forgot, but the Dr. Talika McCoy Ministries is about impacting lives, healing hearts, and growing faith. And as long as I'm able, I'm going to impact your life. I'm going to attempt to heal your heart, and I'm going to work on growing your faith. We're going to do this together because you matter. All right. Have a good evening. Thank you for being here. And I hope that after this, you'll go do something really nice for yourself. Why? Because you deserve it. Have a good evening.